For emotional signs, your soulmate is carrying strong feelings for you in silence. Something meaningful pulled your awareness here, not by accident, not by random timing, but through an invisible alignment that works quietly behind everyday moments, because there is someone connected to your destiny who has been holding emotions they haven't yet found the courage to express. And the universe is inviting you to recognize the energy before the words arrive. When soulmate feelings remain unspoken, they don't disappear, they transform into subtle signals that move through space, memory, intuition, and emotional awareness. You may have noticed sudden thoughts of this person appearing without effort, moments when their presence feels close even without communication, or an unexplained emotional warmth that settles in during quiet reflection. These sensations are not imagination. They are energetic impressions created by unresolved expression. One powerful indicator is emotional resonance. Feeling connected even when physical distance exists, sensing shifts in mood without direct conversation, or experiencing dreams that carry their presence. This happens because strong feelings generate emotional frequency that travels beyond physical boundaries. Another sign appears through protective energy. When someone cares deeply but remains silent, they often express concern indirectly, asking about your well-being through mutual connections, showing subtle support from afar, paying attention to your growth without demanding recognition. This behavior reflects care restrained by hesitation, not absence of feeling. Inner conflict is another indicator. Silence rarely comes from indifference, it usually comes from fear of vulnerability, uncertainty about timing, or unresolved emotional history, and this inner tension creates emotional turbulence that you may sense as inconsistency, mixed signals, or moments of emotional intensity followed by withdrawal. This pattern reflects someone struggling between desire and self-protection. Another signal emerges through synchronicity. When unspoken emotion exists, the universe often creates symbolic confirmations, repeating numbers on clocks, license plates, or receipts, unexpected encounters, songs that mirror emotional themes, or recurring reminders that bring this person back into awareness. These moments act as spiritual nudges, guiding attention toward unresolved connection. Emotional silence also influences behavior patterns. You may notice this person appearing when you least expect it, initiating small interactions without deeper conversation, or finding subtle ways to remain present in your life. These actions represent emotional proximity without verbal disclosure. Another sign involves emotional sensitivity. When someone carries strong feelings, they often become more reactive internally, experiencing mood shifts, restlessness, or heightened awareness around you, and you may sense this as tension in shared spaces or sudden emotional shifts during interactions. Silence does not eliminate emotion, it intensifies it beneath the surface. Another indicator appears in timing. Soulmate connections often activate emotional awakening during periods of personal growth, transition, or self-discovery. If you encountered this person during a phase of change, healing, or emotional evolution, that timing holds significance. The universe aligns transformative connections with periods of internal expansion. Emotional silence also manifests through memory persistence. When someone holds strong feelings, they replay shared moments, revisit conversations mentally, and attach meaning to small details, and this energetic attachment can be sensed through recurring thoughts or unexpected emotional echoes on your side. Another sign involves emotional mirroring. You may notice yourself feeling similar emotions at the same time, experiencing parallel life changes, or sensing shared emotional themes. This synchronicity reflects energetic connection. Another indicator appears in the way this person responds to your presence. Subtle changes in tone, body language or attention, lingering eye contact, quiet pauses, or moments of emotional intensity that quickly retreat. These behaviors reveal feelings that words haven't yet carried. Emotional silence also affects physical awareness. You may feel shifts in your own energy when thinking about them, experiencing calm, warmth, or emotional pull. This response reflects subconscious recognition. Another sign appears through spiritual symbolism, repeated encounters with similar imagery, meaningful dreams, or symbolic reminders tied to this person. The universe often communicates emotional truth through layered symbolism before direct expression occurs. Another indicator is internal awareness. You may sense that something remains unfinished. Not in a dramatic way, but as quiet knowing that the story hasn't fully unfolded yet. This awareness comes from intuitive recognition rather than conscious reasoning. Emotional silence also influences how this person treats boundaries, respecting distance while maintaining subtle connection, avoiding overstepping while remaining emotionally present. This balance reflects restraint combined with care. Another sign involves emotional maturity development. Carrying strong feelings often pushes individuals toward growth, confronting internal fears, healing past wounds, and learning emotional responsibility. You may notice this person evolving, becoming more introspective, focused, or intentional, reflecting internal preparation. Another indicator appears in shared emotional lessons. Both of you may be experiencing similar growth themes, releasing old patterns, strengthening boundaries, or redefining relationship values. This parallel development reflects alignment. Emotional silence also manifests through heightened awareness during interaction, moments where conversation feels deeper than words, silence feels charged rather than empty, or presence feels meaningful beyond surface exchange. These moments reveal emotional depth beneath restraint. Another sign appears in repeated reconnection attempts, subtle outreach, indirect contact, or symbolic reminders that keep paths crossing. The universe often creates opportunities for unresolved emotion to surface gradually. Emotional silence can also produce protective instincts, concern for your well-being, subtle guidance offered without explanation, or quiet encouragement during difficult moments. These behaviors reflect emotional investment. Another indicator is emotional discomfort during separation, feeling unsettled when distance increases, sensing absence more strongly than expected, or experiencing emotional weight after interactions end. This reaction reflects attachment energy. Emotional silence also influences future orientation. This person may express curiosity about your plans, interests in your goals, or subtle interest in long-term direction without openly stating intention. These behaviors reflect emotional forecasting. Another sign involves intuitive communication, sensing what they feel without conversation, understanding mood shifts, or anticipating reactions. This sensitivity reflects energetic connection. Emotional silence also triggers internal awareness in you, encouraging reflection, self-growth, and emotional clarity. Soulmate connections often awaken awareness even without physical union. Another indicator appears through symbolic closure attempts, the universe presenting moments that encourage emotional honesty, meaningful conversations, or opportunities for expression, preparing both sides for eventual truth. Emotional silence does not last forever. It builds pressure until release becomes necessary, and when that moment arrives it carries weight, sincerity, and transformation. Recognizing these signs does not require forcing outcomes, it requires awareness, patience, and emotional openness, allowing the connection to unfold naturally. Understanding that silence does not equal absence of feeling, it often reflects depth still forming shape. and this awareness prepares you for the next stage of this connection, where hidden emotion transitions into visible expression, guided by timing, growth, and alignment rather than impulse. As this awareness settles deeper into your understanding, the next layer of insight begins shaping how you interpret what is happening beneath the surface, because emotional silence does not exist in isolation. It influences behavior, energy, and subtle interaction patterns that reveal intention without spoken confession. You may notice moments where this person becomes unusually attentive, remembering small details about you, noticing changes in your mood, or responding thoughtfully to things you barely mentioned. This attentiveness reflects emotional investment. Another indicator appears through restraint, holding back words that clearly want to be spoken, pausing before expressing thoughts, choosing silence instead of risking vulnerability. This hesitation does not reflect lack of interest, it reflects fear of emotional exposure. Another sign emerges in body language, posture shifts, lingering glances, unconscious mirroring of your movements, or subtle changes in tone when interacting with you. These physical cues often reveal emotions that the mind tries to suppress. Another pattern appears in emotional protectiveness, offering support during difficult moments, checking on your well-being indirectly, or showing concern through actions rather than words. This behavior reflects care expressed through presence rather than confession. Another indicator involves timing sensitivity, reaching out during emotionally significant moments, appearing when you are going through change, or offering comfort when you need it most. This synchronicity reflects emotional attunement. Another sign appears in emotional tension, moments where conversation feels charged, silence feels heavy, or interactions carry unspoken depth. This tension arises from suppressed expression. Another pattern involves subtle jealousy or sensitivity, reacting quietly to perceived competition, becoming reserved when others show interest in you, or withdrawing slightly while still remaining emotionally present. This behavior reflects protective instinct combined with restraint. Another indicator appears through emotional availability, listening deeply when you speak, offering empathy, and responding with understanding rather than detachment. This presence reflects emotional engagement. Another sign involves indirect communication, sharing content, sending symbolic messages, or referencing topics that hint at feelings without stating them directly. This behavior reflects desire to express emotion safely. Another pattern appears in emotional inconsistency, alternating between closeness and distance, warmth and withdrawal. This fluctuation reflects internal conflict between desire and fear. Another indicator involves repeated reappearance, finding ways to re-enter your space, reconnect after silence, or create reasons to communicate, even if briefly. This persistence reflects unresolved emotional connection. Another sign appears through heightened awareness of your reactions, adjusting behavior based on your mood, becoming more careful with words, or showing sensitivity to your emotional state. This attentiveness reflects care. Another pattern involves internal restlessness. You may sense this person experiencing unease, distraction, or emotional tension when around you. This restlessness reflects suppressed expression. Another indicator appears in symbolic actions, offering small gestures of kindness, assistance, or support that carry emotional meaning. Beyond practicality, these gestures represent feeling translated into action. Another sign involves protective silence, avoiding conversations that could reveal vulnerability, changing topics when emotions surface, or maintaining emotional distance while remaining present. This behavior reflects fear of exposure. Another pattern appears through emotional resonance, feeling connected even during absence, sensing their energy during quiet moments, or experiencing emotional echoes that appear Unexpectedly, this resonance reflects energetic connection. Another indicator appears in shared timing, experiencing similar emotional themes, parallel life changes, or simultaneous growth phases. This synchronicity reflects alignment. Another sign involves heightened sensitivity to your presence, reacting more strongly to your words, showing emotional responses that differ from how they interact with others. This difference reflects deeper attachment. Another pattern appears in emotional memory, recalling small moments, referencing past interactions, or holding on to shared experiences with significance. This memory retention reflects emotional investment. Another indicator involves intuitive communication, sensing when they are thinking about you, feeling emotional waves without explanation, or experiencing dreams that carry their presence. This intuitive awareness reflects energetic connection. Another sign appears in future-oriented behavior, expressing curiosity about your plans, showing interest in your goals, or referencing shared experiences that could happen later. This behavior reflects emotional forecasting. Another pattern involves emotional restraint in public spaces, maintaining composure while expressing subtle attention, choosing privacy over display. This restraint reflects respect combined with vulnerability. Another indicator appears through subtle vulnerability, sharing personal experiences, opening up about fears, or revealing emotional struggles. During conversation, this openness reflects trust building. Another sign involves emotional conflict resolution, making efforts to restore harmony after tension, seeking understanding, or apologizing when misunderstandings occur. This behavior reflects care. Another pattern appears in emotional patience, allowing connection to unfold slowly, respecting timing, and avoiding pressure. This patience reflects long-term intention. Another indicator involves protective instinct toward your reputation, defending you indirectly, supporting your growth, or speaking positively about you to others. This behavior reflects loyalty. Another sign appears in emotional transparency during private moments, expressing sincerity, offering genuine compliments, or sharing meaningful thoughts. This transparency reflects deeper connection. Another pattern involves subconscious alignment, adopting similar interests, habits, or perspectives over time, reflecting emotional influence. Another indicator appears through emotional investment in your happiness, celebrating your achievements, offering encouragement, and supporting your goals. This behavior reflects care. Another sign involves tension during separation, feeling unsettled when distance increases, expressing subtle sadness when parting, or maintaining connection through small gestures. This reaction reflects attachment energy. Another pattern appears in emotional curiosity, asking deeper questions, seeking understanding of your inner world, and wanting to know your experiences. This curiosity reflects connection. Another indicator involves symbolic confirmation from the universe, repeated numbers, meaningful coincidences, or events that draw your attention to this connection, reinforcing awareness. Another sign appears in internal awareness within you, sensing that something remains unresolved, feeling that the story has not reached completion. This intuition reflects energetic connection. Another pattern. As this understanding deepens, the final stage of awareness begins, revealing how this silent emotional current shapes the future direction of the connection. Because unspoken feelings do not remain suspended forever, they seek expression through timing, growth, and alignment. You may notice shifts occurring gradually, behavior becoming more intentional, interactions gaining depth, and emotional presence increasing without dramatic announcement. This transition reflects readiness forming beneath the surface. Another indicator appears through increased courage, subtle changes in communication style, more direct eye contact, longer conversations, or greater willingness to share personal experiences. These adjustments reveal internal preparation. Another sign involves emotional steadiness, fewer fluctuations between closeness and withdrawal, more consistent engagement, and clearer intention expressed through action rather than words. This steadiness reflects confidence developing. Another pattern emerges in timing synchronization, both of you experiencing emotional readiness simultaneously, reaching similar stages of growth, and feeling aligned in perspective. This synchronicity supports expression. Another indicator appears in the form of meaningful opportunities created by circumstance, unexpected meetings, shared environments, or situations that allow conversation to deepen naturally. These moments reflect divine orchestration. Another sign involves emotional vulnerability. Increasing, sharing personal struggles, revealing hopes, or opening up about fears. This vulnerability indicates trust strengthening. Another pattern appears through protective honesty, addressing misunderstandings directly, clarifying intentions, and resolving emotional tension through dialogue rather than avoidance. This honesty reflects maturity. Another indicator involves emotional patience, allowing connection to unfold without pressure, respecting boundaries, and honoring timing. This patience reflects long-term intention. Another sign appears in supportive behavior becoming more visible, offering help, showing up during important moments, and prioritizing your well-being through action. This support reflects care translated into effort. Another pattern emerges through symbolic communication, sharing meaningful content, referencing shared memories, or creating inside references that strengthen emotional bond. These gestures reflect closeness building. Another indicator involves emotional clarity on your side, recognizing what you want, understanding your boundaries, and preparing yourself emotionally for deeper connection. This clarity supports alignment. Another sign appears through internal calm replacing uncertainty, feeling grounded rather than anxious, trusting the process instead of forcing outcomes. This calm reflects spiritual alignment. Another pattern involves growth acceleration, both individuals experiencing personal development that supports emotional readiness, such as improved communication skills, greater self-awareness, and stronger emotional resilience. This growth prepares the foundation for expression. Another indicator appears through future-oriented dialogue, discussing plans, interests, or possibilities that include shared experiences. This behavior reflects intention forming. Another sign involves increased respect, honoring your time, valuing your perspective, and treating interactions with care. This respect reflects emotional maturity. Another pattern emerges in emotional transparency, sharing thoughts more openly, expressing feelings with honesty, and allowing authenticity to replace guardedness. This transparency reflects trust. Another indicator appears through alignment in values, recognizing shared principles, similar life priorities, or compatible emotional rhythms. This alignment strengthens connection potential. Another sign involves mutual encouragement, supporting growth, celebrating achievements, and offering reassurance during challenges. This encouragement reflects partnership energy. Another pattern appears through emotional consistency, showing up reliably, maintaining communication, and sustaining presence. This consistency reflects commitment developing. Another indicator involves intuitive confirmation, sensing when the moment for expression is approaching, feeling readiness within yourself, and noticing emotional cues that signal timing alignment. This intuition guides awareness. Another sign appears through increased openness to vulnerability, releasing fear of rejection, embracing honesty, and allowing emotional exposure. This openness reflects readiness. Another pattern emerges in healing completion, resolving past emotional wounds, releasing old attachment patterns, and achieving emotional closure. This healing clears space for new connection. Another indicator appears through external circumstances aligning, schedules becoming compatible, physical proximity increasing, or life situations shifting to allow connection to unfold. This alignment reflects divine timing. Another sign involves emotional reciprocation becoming clearer, effort being balanced, care being mutual, and interest flowing both directions. This reciprocity strengthens connection. Another pattern appears through emotional integration. Both individuals bringing learned lessons into present interaction, applying awareness, patience, and emotional intelligence. This integration supports stability. Another indicator involves recognition moments, sudden clarity that something meaningful is unfolding, understanding that silence is transforming into expression. This realization reflects readiness. Another sign appears through subtle initiation, taking small steps toward deeper conversation, initiating contact, or creating opportunities to connect. These actions reflect courage. Another pattern emerges in emotional harmony, experiencing ease during interaction, feeling comfortable being authentic, and sensing mutual understanding. This harmony reflects alignment. Another indicator involves spiritual confirmation, encountering repeating symbols, meaningful coincidences, or moments of peace that reinforce awareness. This confirmation supports trust. Another sign appears through emotional anticipation, feeling excitement mixed with calm rather than anxiety, sensing readiness instead of urgency. This anticipation reflects balanced desire. Another pattern emerges in conscious choice, both individuals deciding to engage intentionally rather than reactively, choosing growth over fear, and presence over avoidance. This choice reflects maturity. Another indicator involves transformation of silence into dialogue, unspoken emotion gradually becoming conversation, honesty, and connection. This transition reflects fulfillment of emotional cycle. Another sign appears through mutual openness to future possibility, considering what comes next without pressure, but with intention. This openness reflects trust. Another pattern emerges in emotional alignment, stabilizing, reducing confusion, increasing clarity, and strengthening connection foundation. This stability reflects readiness. Another indicator involves closure of old cycles, releasing past relationships, letting go of emotional baggage, and stepping into new chapter with awareness. This closure supports new beginnings. Another sign appears through personal empowerment, feeling confident, grounded, and secure in yourself, ready to engage in connection without losing identity. This empowerment reflects growth. Another pattern emerges in collective evolution, both individuals becoming better versions of themselves through this connection. This evolution reflects soulmate influence. Another indicator involves peaceful expectation, trusting that expression will occur when timing aligns, releasing control, and allowing the universe to guide the process. This trust reflects spiritual maturity, and together these signs reveal that silent emotion is not stagnant, it is moving toward expression, shaped by growth, timing, and alignment, preparing both hearts for the next stage of connection where truth becomes visible and possibility unfolds. As this phase reaches completion, the final transformation begins unfolding in how both hearts prepare to step into a new emotional chapter. Because silence does not disappear suddenly, it dissolves gradually as readiness replaces hesitation. You may begin noticing subtle changes in atmosphere when you are near this person, a lighter energy, softer communication, and an openness that was not present before. This shift reflects internal barriers lowering. Another indicator appears through increased emotional clarity, conversations becoming more meaningful, responses carrying sincerity, and moments of honesty emerging naturally without pressure. This clarity signals alignment forming. Another sign involves emotional bravery strengthening, small acts of vulnerability, sharing personal experiences, expressing appreciation, or revealing thoughts that were previously held back. These actions show courage building. Another pattern emerges in behavioral consistency, showing up reliably, maintaining communication, and offering steady presence. This reliability reflects emotional stability. Another indicator appears in mutual awareness, both individuals sensing the change, recognizing emotional readiness, and responding with openness rather than resistance. This shared recognition supports connection growth. Another sign involves external circumstances shifting to support interaction, unexpected opportunities to meet, shared environments appearing more frequently, or timing aligning in ways that allow deeper engagement. These changes reflect divine orchestration. Another pattern emerges in emotional cooperation, resolving misunderstandings calmly, practicing patience, and choosing understanding over defensiveness. This cooperation strengthens trust. Another indicator involves mutual respect increasing, honoring boundaries, valuing opinions, and treating each other with care. This respect reflects emotional maturity. Another sign appears in intuitive alignment, sensing when the moment for deeper conversation is approaching, feeling readiness internally, and recognizing emotional cues without words. This intuition guides timing. Another pattern emerges in emotional comfort, being able to share silence without discomfort, enjoying presence without pressure, and experiencing ease during interaction. This comfort reflects connection stability. Another indicator involves shared emotional language developing, understanding each other's moods, recognizing unspoken cues, and communicating effectively through subtle expressions. This understanding strengthens bond. Another sign appears in emotional reassurance becoming more visible, offering support during challenges, celebrating successes, and showing encouragement consistently. This reassurance reflects care. Another pattern emerges in self-awareness on both sides, recognizing personal triggers, practicing emotional regulation, and responding thoughtfully during sensitive moments. This awareness supports harmony. Another indicator involves future-minded dialogue emerging gradually, discussing goals, interests, and possibilities without forcing outcomes. This dialogue reflects intention forming. Another sign appears in emotional transparency increasing, sharing feelings openly, expressing concerns honestly, and allowing vulnerability to replace guardedness. This transparency reflects trust growth. Another pattern emerges in emotional reciprocity becoming balanced, effort flowing in both directions, interest being mutual, and care being shared equally. This balance supports stability. Another indicator involves emotional peace settling within you, feeling grounded, calm, and confident about the direction unfolding. This peace reflects alignment. Another sign appears in personal readiness, feeling prepared to receive deeper connection, confident in your emotional foundation, and secure in your identity. This readiness supports healthy partnership. Another pattern emerges in collective growth, both individuals continuing to evolve, improving communication skills, strengthening emotional intelligence, and learning from experiences. This evolution prepares long-term stability. Another indicator involves symbolic confirmation from the universe, subtle signs appearing during meaningful moments, reinforcing awareness and trust. This confirmation supports belief in alignment. Another sign appears in emotional anticipation becoming balanced, excitement paired with calm rather than anxiety, readiness replacing urgency. This emotional balance reflects maturity. Another pattern emerges in conscious decision-making, choosing to engage intentionally, communicate honestly, and approach connection with respect. This choice reflects growth. Another indicator involves emotional integration, applying lessons learned from silence into present interaction. Using awareness to guide behavior, this integration strengthens connection. Another sign appears in closure of emotional distance, barriers dissolving, misunderstandings clearing, and openness replacing hesitation. This closure reflects readiness for new chapter. Another pattern emerges in strengthened self-worth, feeling confident in your value, maintaining boundaries, and approaching connection without fear of abandonment. This self-respect supports stability. Another indicator involves emotional alignment stabilizing, reducing confusion, increasing clarity, and strengthening foundation for future interaction. This stability reflects readiness. Another sign appears in renewed optimism, believing in positive outcomes, trusting timing, and remaining open to possibility. This optimism reflects emotional health. Another pattern emerges in acceptance of uncertainty, allowing the process to unfold naturally without forcing outcomes. This acceptance supports flow. Another indicator involves emotional synchronization, both individuals moving at similar pace, sharing readiness, and responding to change harmoniously. This synchronization reflects alignment. Another sign appears in internal fulfillment growing, feeling content within yourself, not dependent on external validation. This fulfillment supports healthy connection. Another pattern emerges in spiritual awareness increasing, recognizing guidance, trusting intuition, and honoring inner wisdom. This awareness supports growth. Another indicator involves emotional gratitude, appreciating progress, valuing effort, and acknowledging transformation. This gratitude amplifies positive energy. Another sign appears in readiness to speak truth, feeling prepared for honest conversation when the moment arrives. This readiness reflects courage. Another pattern emerges in emotional unity forming gradually, connection strengthening through presence, respect, and mutual understanding. This unity reflects soulmate energy. Another indicator involves peaceful confidence settling within you, trusting that expression will occur when timing aligns. This confidence reflects spiritual maturity, and together these changes reveal that silence has fulfilled its purpose, transforming into awareness, readiness, and alignment, preparing both hearts for the next phase where emotional truth becomes shared reality and the connection steps into its destined form. As the final layer of this emotional cycle begins unfolding, you may notice a profound shift in how you perceive the connection itself, not as uncertainty or mystery anymore, but as something moving steadily toward clarity, because when silent feelings mature, they transform into conscious intention, guiding behavior with purpose rather than hesitation. You might observe this person becoming more grounded in your presence, engaging with you through thoughtful conversation, consistent attention, and genuine interest in your inner world. This shift reflects emotional readiness finally stepping forward. Another sign appears through subtle prioritization, making time for you even when schedules are busy, adjusting plans to maintain connection, and choosing presence over convenience. These actions demonstrate care expressed through effort. Another indicator emerges in emotional openness, sharing personal experiences, revealing vulnerabilities, and allowing you to see layers of their identity that were previously hidden. This openness reflects trust forming. Another pattern appears in respectful communication, listening without interruption, responding with understanding, and valuing your perspective during discussion. This respect strengthens emotional safety. Another sign arises in collaborative energy, working together on shared ideas, planning experiences, or creating moments that reflect mutual interest. This cooperation reflects partnership mindset. Another indicator Involves emotional reassurance becoming more visible, offering encouragement during challenges, celebrating your achievements, and showing pride in your growth. This reassurance reflects emotional investment. Another pattern emerges in consistency, maintaining steady interaction, avoiding emotional disappearance, and showing reliability through action. This consistency builds trust. Another sign appears in emotional alignment, noticing similar values, shared priorities, and compatible perspectives becoming more apparent. This alignment strengthens connection foundation. Another indicator arises in intuitive synchronization, sensing each other's moods, anticipating emotional needs, and responding with empathy without verbal cues. This attunement reflects deepening bond. Another pattern emerges in increased mutual curiosity, asking deeper questions, exploring each other's experiences, and showing interest in future possibilities. This curiosity reflects emotional engagement. Another sign appears in emotional courage, expressing thoughts more directly, addressing important topics without avoidance, and stepping beyond comfort zones to build honesty. This courage reflects readiness. Another indicator involves emotional balance improving, interactions feeling calm, supportive, and grounded rather than intense or unstable. This balance reflects maturity. Another pattern emerges in shared growth, motivating each other toward personal development, encouraging healthier habits, and supporting individual goals. This mutual support strengthens partnership energy. Another sign appears in emotional integration, applying lessons learned from past silence into present behavior, choosing transparency over avoidance, and openness over restraint. This integration reflects evolution. Another indicator arises in long-term awareness, subtle references to future experiences, shared interests that extend beyond the present moment, and curiosity about long-range goals. This awareness reflects forward-thinking intention. Another pattern emerges in emotional patience, allowing connection to develop naturally without rushing labels or outcomes, respecting pace, and honoring timing. This patience reflects stability. Another sign appears in strengthened self-awareness on both sides, recognizing emotional triggers, practicing regulation, and responding thoughtfully rather than impulsively. This awareness supports harmony. Another indicator arises in shared emotional language, understanding tone, expression, and subtle cues without explanation. This understanding reflects closeness. Another pattern emerges in emotional generosity, offering support without expectation, giving care freely, and showing kindness through small consistent actions. This generosity reflects genuine feeling. Another sign appears in conflict resolution efforts, choosing dialogue instead of avoidance, seeking compromise rather than dominance, and prioritizing understanding over ego. This approach reflects emotional maturity. Another indicator involves increased emotional transparency, sharing thoughts openly, expressing appreciation, and communicating feelings without fear. This transparency strengthens trust. Another pattern emerges in emotional reliability, showing up during important moments, remembering meaningful details, and honoring commitments. This reliability reflects sincerity. Another sign appears in spiritual awareness strengthening, recognizing symbolic confirmations, trusting intuition, and honoring inner guidance that supports connection growth. This awareness reflects alignment. Another indicator arises in emotional calm, settling into your own heart, feeling peaceful about the process, trusting timing, and releasing anxiety about outcomes. This calm reflects inner stability. Another pattern emerges in renewed optimism, believing in positive potential without unrealistic expectations, maintaining hope grounded in reality. This optimism reflects emotional health. Another sign appears in acceptance of vulnerability, allowing yourself to be seen authentically, expressing needs clearly, and trusting the process. This acceptance supports deeper connection. Another indicator arises in emotional fulfillment, growing independently, feeling content within yourself rather than dependent on external validation. This fulfillment supports healthy partnership. Another pattern emerges in shared emotional rhythm, both individuals moving at similar pace, responding harmoniously to changes, and aligning naturally without force. This rhythm reflects soulmate energy. Another sign appears in emotional closure of old cycles, releasing attachments to past connections, healing unresolved wounds, and creating space for new beginnings. This closure supports transformation. Another indicator arises in strengthened identity, feeling confident in who you are, honoring your values, and approaching connection with self-respect. This identity supports stability. Another pattern emerges in gratitude for growth, appreciating lessons learned, recognizing transformation, and valuing progress. This gratitude amplifies positive energy. Another sign appears in readiness for honest conversation, feeling prepared emotionally to engage in meaningful dialogue when the moment arrives. This readiness reflects courage. Another indicator arises in emotional alignment, stabilizing, reducing confusion, increasing clarity, and strengthening foundation. For future interaction, this stability reflects readiness. Another pattern emerges in quiet certainty, forming within you, trusting that the connection is evolving naturally, guided by timing rather than force. This certainty reflects spiritual maturity, and together these shifts reveal that silent emotion has completed its purpose, transforming into awareness, readiness, and intentional movement toward a new chapter where emotional truth becomes shared reality and the connection steps into its destined form with clarity, balance, and conscious choice. As this final stage unfolds, the energy surrounding the connection begins stabilizing into something more grounded and purposeful, because when silent feelings complete their transformation, they no longer linger in uncertainty, they become direction, intention, and conscious choice. You may notice interactions feeling calmer yet deeper, less driven by emotional tension and more guided by mutual understanding. This shift reflects emotional maturity settling in. Another sign appears through increased clarity in behavior, actions becoming more consistent, communication gaining structure, and intentions expressed through reliability rather than impulse. This consistency builds trust naturally. Another indicator arises in mutual emotional responsibility, both individuals becoming more mindful of how words and actions affect each other, choosing care over reaction, patience over frustration, and empathy over assumption. This responsibility strengthens connection stability. Another pattern emerges in shared emotional presence, being fully engaged during interactions, offering genuine attention, and valuing moments together without distraction. This presence deepens intimacy. Another sign appears in emotional resilience, navigating misunderstandings with calm dialogue instead of avoidance, addressing concerns with honesty rather than defensiveness, and working through challenges with cooperation. This resilience reflects partnership readiness. Another indicator arises in strengthened emotional boundaries, respecting personal space, honoring individuality, and supporting independence while maintaining connection. This balance prevents emotional dependency. Another pattern emerges in mutual encouragement, celebrating each other's achievements, offering motivation during difficult periods, and supporting personal growth. This encouragement reflects shared purpose. Another sign appears in emotional alignment with daily routines, finding natural ways to integrate each other into everyday life, sharing experiences, coordinating schedules, and building rhythm together. This integration reflects long-term potential. Another indicator arises in intuitive harmony, sensing each other's moods, responding with compassion, and understanding unspoken cues. This harmony reflects deep connection. Another pattern emerges in emotional generosity, giving support freely, offering kindness consistently, and showing care through small thoughtful actions. This generosity reflects genuine feeling. Another sign appears in future-minded awareness, discussing goals, interests, and possibilities without pressure, but with intention and openness. This awareness reflects readiness to build together. Another indicator arises in emotional peace settling within you, feeling calm about the unfolding process, trusting timing, and releasing anxiety about outcomes. This peace reflects inner alignment. Another pattern emerges in self-confidence strengthening, feeling secure in your worth, expressing needs clearly, and approaching connection without fear of rejection. This confidence supports healthy interaction. Another sign appears in emotional authenticity, being comfortable showing your true self, sharing thoughts honestly, and allowing vulnerability to exist without shame. This authenticity strengthens trust. Another indicator arises in conflict management improving, choosing understanding over blame, listening actively, and seeking resolution through communication. This approach reflects maturity. Another pattern emerges in emotional patience, allowing connection to evolve naturally, honoring pacing, and avoiding rushed expectations. This patience supports stability. Another sign appears in symbolic confirmation from the universe, subtle signs appearing during meaningful moments, reinforcing awareness and trust. This confirmation strengthens belief in alignment. Another indicator arises in emotional clarity regarding personal needs. Understanding what you desire from connection, recognizing boundaries, and honoring values. This clarity supports conscious choice. Another pattern emerges in shared emotional growth, both individuals continuing to evolve, learning from experiences, improving communication skills, and strengthening emotional intelligence. This growth supports long-term harmony. Another sign appears in mutual respect deepening, valuing opinions, honoring perspectives, and treating each other with dignity. This respect reflects emotional maturity. Another indicator arises in emotional steadiness increasing, fewer fluctuations, more balanced engagement, and consistent presence. This steadiness supports trust. Another pattern emerges in gratitude becoming more natural, appreciating effort, valuing progress, and recognizing transformation. This gratitude amplifies positive energy. Another sign appears in acceptance of imperfection, understanding that growth includes mistakes, learning together, and practicing forgiveness. This acceptance supports healthy connection. Another indicator arises in emotional readiness for deeper commitment, feeling prepared to engage more intentionally, communicate honestly, and build something meaningful. This readiness reflects growth. Another pattern emerges in integration of past lessons, applying awareness gained from silence into present interaction, choosing conscious behavior over old habits. This integration strengthens connection foundation. Another sign appears in emotional courage increasing, expressing thoughts openly, addressing important topics without fear, and embracing honesty. This courage reflects readiness. Another indicator arises in spiritual awareness expanding, trusting intuition, recognizing guidance, and honoring inner wisdom that supports connection growth. This awareness reflects alignment. Another pattern emerges in emotional unity forming gradually, connection strengthening through presence, respect, and shared understanding. This unity reflects soulmate energy. Another sign appears in peaceful certainty settling within you, trusting that the unfolding process is guided, allowing events to develop naturally without forcing outcomes. This certainty reflects spiritual maturity. Another indicator arises in renewed sense of purpose, feeling motivated to contribute positively, pursue meaningful goals, and live intentionally. This purpose supports fulfillment. Another pattern emerges in emotional fulfillment, growing independently, feeling content within yourself, not relying on external validation. This fulfillment supports balanced partnership. Another sign appears in readiness to embrace the next chapter, feeling open to possibility, confident in growth, and prepared for deeper connection. This readiness reflects alignment, and together these changes reveal that silent emotion has completed its journey, transforming into awareness, stability, and intentional movement, preparing both hearts to step forward with clarity, balance, and conscious commitment into the next phase of their shared path. As this journey reaches its closing chapter, the energy surrounding the connection settles into a state of quiet certainty, not driven by urgency or emotional turbulence, but guided by clarity, stability, and intentional movement, because when silent feelings fully mature, they no longer seek validation through uncertainty. They express themselves through consistent presence, purposeful action, and conscious choice. You may notice interactions feeling grounded, communication flowing with ease, and emotional exchanges carrying sincerity rather than hesitation. This shift reflects readiness finally taking form. Another indicator appears through mutual understanding strengthening, recognizing each other's needs without excessive explanation, responding with empathy, and offering support naturally. This understanding deepens connection. Another pattern emerges in emotional harmony. Conversations feeling balanced, energy feeling steady, and interactions creating peace rather than tension. This harmony reflects alignment. Another sign appears in strengthened trust, relying on each other's words, believing in consistency, and feeling secure in emotional exchange. This trust builds foundation. Another indicator arises in shared responsibility, both individuals contributing effort, maintaining communication, and nurturing connection intentionally. This responsibility reflects partnership mindset. Another pattern emerges in emotional integration, applying lessons learned from previous silence into present behavior, choosing openness over restraint, and clarity over confusion. This integration supports stability. Another sign appears in spiritual awareness, becoming more present, recognizing symbolic confirmations, trusting intuitive guidance, and honoring timing. This awareness strengthens belief in alignment. Another indicator arises in emotional patience stabilizing, allowing connection to unfold without forcing outcomes, respecting pace, and trusting natural progression. This patience reflects maturity. Another pattern emerges in mutual encouragement, becoming routine, offering reassurance, celebrating achievements, and supporting growth. This encouragement reflects care. Another sign appears in emotional authenticity strengthening, being comfortable expressing true thoughts, sharing vulnerabilities, and allowing honesty to guide interaction. This authenticity deepens bond. Another indicator arises in conflict resolution, improving, addressing concerns calmly, seeking understanding, and prioritizing resolution over ego. This approach reflects emotional intelligence. Another pattern emerges in emotional resilience, navigating challenges with cooperation, adapting to change with flexibility, and maintaining stability during uncertainty. This resilience supports long-term harmony. Another sign appears in shared vision forming gradually, discussing goals, aspirations, and values that align. This vision reflects future-oriented intention. Another indicator arises in emotional presence, becoming natural, being fully engaged during conversations, listening actively, and valuing moments together. This presence strengthens intimacy. Another pattern emerges in emotional generosity.